today is the famous story of the woman at the well. And one of the things that gives us a little bit of background, a little context, is that Jesus has been there with his disciples. They're across from John. They're doing the baptisms. The Pharisees and the religious leaders, just like with John, they're getting suspicious, but it's not Jesus's hour. So he goes up and meets the woman at the well. It says that he had a it was that they had to that he had to come to that place, and it certainly wasn't the case that he certainly from a traveling point of view had to. There were many Jews who did not go through Samaria, even though it was the quickest route to go from the Galilee down into Jerusalem. A lot of them did not do that because the Samaritans were a hated community. The Samaritans, a little background on the Samaritans, they were a mixed race of Assyrians and those who were there from the northern kingdom of Israel. When Assyria came in 723 and defeated the northern kingdom of Israel, they sent many away from the land, and they became the lost tribes. The one who stayed then intermixed with the people who were there in the land. The Syrians were a little bit superstitious in that there were increasing lion attacks in that area. And so they didn't know what to do. So they were thinking that the God of Israel must have some territorial power in that particular area. So what they did, they sent the priests from Assyria who were captured, the Jewish priests who were captured in the northern kingdom of Israel, who were sent to Assyria. They were then sent back into the land to teach the people. So it was, under the best circumstances with the northern kingdom of Israel, it was a little bit of God and a little bit of the Canaanite fertility gods and goddesses. So the same way with the Samaritans, it was a little bit, certainly a lot of the God of Israel, but certainly some of the surrounding area. So they were hated and despised. They were a people that when Babylon came in and destroyed the temple, and under the Medes and Persians were allowed to come in and to rebuild the temple, they certainly tried every bit of its obstruction to rebuilding the temple. But when Israel had some self-rule after Antiochus IV in the 150s, 140s, 100s, in that area, they came in and destroyed their temple at Mount Gerizim. So again, tit for tat, hatred on all sides. And so Jesus comes and says to the woman, "Give me a drink." She said, "If you, basically, how dare you, that you talk to me, a Samaritan, when you're a Jew?" But he says to her, that if you had known, he would have given you living water. So she says, "Sure, sir, give me this water, that I may not be thirsty or have to keep coming here to draw water." One of the things about her is that because she's drawing water at noon, she's kind of cast in that outcast kind of a position. Certainly they would at the heat of the day to draw water, but yet that's when she came. So Jesus says, "Go call your husband and come back." She says, "I don't have a husband." He's right. It says, "You're right in saying you don't have a husband. You've had 5. In other words, you've looked for love in all the wrong places. Instead of looking for the font of love in God, you've looked for it in all the wrong places." She says, she tries to get away from the personal, oops, a little bit too personal. So she says, who's right? You say that you worship in Jerusalem, and we say that we worship on Mount Gerizim, and that's the place to worship God. So which one is right? And he said, "Woman, the time is coming where it'll be neither one, because God is spirit and truth." And so then she then goes and goes to the people in the town, saying, could this be the Messiah? Basically come and see. And so even though her who was an outcast, even though her who certainly had problems with looking for love in all the wrong places, she's the one who then goes to the town and brings the people, and the people come. And then when they come, they have a great line. It says, that basically, these we no longer believe because of your word. We have seen for ourselves and know that this is truly the Savior of the world. So in having them, calling them, and then coming to Jesus, they were able to receive that. And so one of the things about really kind of that idea of evangelization has always been the fact that we're kind of wounded healers, that we're people who need God. We are not so self righteous or self complete that we don't need God. But yet, even in our brokenness, we're calling out to others to come and to experience that healing, to come and experience the desire to come to know the Lord in a special way. And I think that that's one of the things that we see in Lent, is really not only to be able to have ourselves, to receive ourselves. And so in receiving, in maybe receiving in Stations of the Cross, in receiving in the Parish Lenten Mission, in receiving in maybe in a special way in one of the Masses, that we don't leave that to ourselves. Just like the woman at the well, we go out and we invite people to come and to see. And it's not necessarily that they're going to say yes. I think that's one of the things that I've said in the past, is that myth of invitation. The myth of invitation is that there's so much pent-up demand, and all they want is someone to just make that invitation. And if they make that invitation, they're going to come running into the church. And that really is no longer the case. If it was ever the case, it's certainly now no longer the case. But it's certainly the case that we make that known, that we make Jesus known, that if we have experienced healing, if we've experienced God's love, that we want to make that known to others, just as the woman at the well. Thanks. God bless.